Hi there, my name's Eric Sutherland and welcome to this short video on dynamic teams. In an ideal world, we would all work in a dynamic team. Perhaps you've had the privilege of working in one at some point and understand what that feels like. In businesses and public sector organisations, dynamic teams provide synergy and increases in productivity. I mean, this is the reason that companies and organisations want to create such magnificent teams. But if the output from such a team is so prized, why don't we have more of them? You know, a lot of money is spent on team building exercises and training events, so clearly organisations do want to achieve this utopia. And yet, so many organisations, having been through the training, still can't deliver on the promise when they get back to the workplace. Even though everyone agrees that they are committed to working together, just like they did in the exercises, something is missing that makes all the hard work just fade away. You see, if you want to create a dynamic team, you first need to understand what a dynamic team actually is, and more importantly, the characteristics that give it such a unique quality. That way you can understand the bit that's missing and put it right. Understanding what makes a dynamic team is not the same as understanding team dynamics. They are two different things and you need both. It's probably easiest to spot a dynamic team in sports. Top rugby or football teams and Formula One pit crews all provide examples of fantastic teams. America's Cup sailing teams also provide some great examples. Inevitably, they are all driven by someone that inspires them and invests their own energy into helping them to be the best that they can be. And here is our first distinction. Someone takes the time and effort to build the team in the right way. You see, not every team has that special something that sets them ahead of other teams. It doesn't just happen, it has to be created. This takes time and effort, and frankly, most team managers are just not prepared to do what it takes. And for sure there'll be moments of brilliance in most teams. But that surge of energy never seems to last. It's usually triggered by some emergency or crisis that causes everyone to pull together to get past it. When the stakes are high, they have to pull together to survive. But why does their performance tail off when the so-called crisis has been dealt with? The answer comes from the next distinction. In a dynamic team, everyone knows what their role is and what is expected from them. At a moment of crisis, teams either step up to the plate or fall apart. When they step up, the team members take on tasks that they may not normally do or even be best placed to do, but they do them anyway. The reason that performance falls off again is simply because the team members go back to doing what they used to do. In a dynamic team, that doesn't happen because every role and task is clearly identified and the right person is selected for the role. In a dynamic team, there is a flow to how people work. One team member supplies the needs of another. Everyone has a role to play in the team and knows what it is. So that brings us to distinction number 3, which is actually required before you can implement distinction number 2. In a dynamic team, the tasks are clearly identified and systems and processes are made explicit so everyone knows what has to be done by the team as a whole and by the individual team members. In a dynamic team, no one asks who is doing this bit or why are we doing this. Distinction number 4 is that every dynamic team has a clearly defined and well understood objective. This is the big goal, not just the team goal. It's what an organisation stands for and wants to achieve. Too often teams, and even whole departments, sub-optimise what they do at the expense of the bigger picture. You can see this easily as its symptoms include silo mentalities and competing for scarce company resources. If everyone was focused on the big goal, there would be no argument about where the resources go. They would go where they would create the biggest leverage for the organisation to achieve its goal. And that brings us to distinction number 5. The objective has to be important enough that everyone in the team wants to achieve it and believes that they can. The achievement has to be bigger than one person or one department. It has to be for everyone. Only then will people subordinate their own needs to the bigger needs of the organisation. So let's recap on the distinctions that make the difference. Number 1, someone is prepared to take on the responsibility of creating the dynamic team. Number 2, everyone has a clear role and knows what is expected of them. Number 3, the systems and processes are explicit. Number 4, there is a clearly defined objective. Number 5, everyone has bought into the achievement of the objective. Let's look at a Formula 1 racing team. The top teams have over 200 people trying to get one of their 2 drivers to win a race and become a world champion. So the goal is pretty clear. The people working in those teams are absolutely committed to achieving success. Everything is tested and refined. Procedures are documented down to the smallest details to ensure that every eventuality is covered. Everyone in the team knows exactly what's expected of them and are determined not to let the team down. Finally, there is someone at the head of the team that ensures all of the other factors are in place and continually works to keep them there. It's once you have these 5 distinctions in place that you begin to play with the team dynamics. But playing with the team dynamics without these is like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You might be busy and get a sense of accomplishment, but you're doomed anyway.